such changes to like make stuff modernized or like overly woke?
I think I can get a 50-50 throw-off one-on-one with George Pickens.
Give me 10 of those. Yeah, give me 10
Give
of
me
those.
10 of those.
I'm kind of getting sick of enemies to lovers. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah.
Welcome to Live from M5. I'm Saraswathi Murugan, and today I'm here with
Sofia Gutierrez.
And today, in our podcast episode, we're going to be talking about Ratatouille, but not just about the plot of the movie, but about how it has a surprising connection to a philosophical movement called Transcendentalism. And maybe you've heard this term before, or maybe you haven't, but Sophia, what is Transcendentalism?
Transcendentalism is a philosophical movement with an emphasis on nature that lays out certain aspects of human divinity. And if you haven't noticed, it's in a lot of popular culture references and moments, and Ratatouille is one of those.
And we're going to be breaking down Ratatouille today, and we're going to do that by over 5 scenes. We'll show a scene, we'll explain what's going on, and then we'll back our claims up with a quote from Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was like an intellectual of this transcendentalist movement. And before we start talking about the scenes, I would like to introduce our friend here, Remy. He says hi. And he's the protagonist of Ratatouille. He is a rat who likes to cook in a human world. But the first scene comes on early in the movie, and we see Remy here has this very intuitive skill of being able to like identify all the ingredients by either taking like just a whiff of a certain piece of food or just taking a bite of it. And like when he takes a bite of this food, he has like these amazing flavor combinations just like occur in his head. And this is a skill kind of that he's born with. It's like almost a talent that he really leans into.
This leads us to our first quote. That quote is, "Trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. Accept the place the divine providence has found for you." This is by Emerson, and it really does bring out that certain intuitive value that Remy does have. He can put flavor combinations together, and he can find new ways to appreciate those flavor combinations. I think one quote in the movie is, "If you are what you eat, then I only want to eat the good stuff." And that's because his nature of being able to sense good food and bad food really defines him as a person. But it's something that sets him apart from his family. And this actually leads us to our next scene, where Remy is going through water rapids, and he's being physically separated from his family by these rapids in a near-death experience.
And okay, to like Remy, especially as a rat, he might think that this is probably the worst thing that's ever happened to him, right? Like he separated his family, he almost drowned and died, but a big part of transcendentalism is this emphasis on nature and the power the natural world has on kind of guiding people to wisdom and strength. And I think that this is exactly what this scene kind of shows. Like, while he struggles now, Emerson, like when he struggles now, eventually this water rapid will lead him to Paris.
Nature is helping form the path for his new journey.
Right. Emerson writes, "Nature never wears a mean appearance," meaning that nature simply exists. It's not really like, it's not good or it's not bad. It's not like the water rapids was trying to kill Remy. It just exists. And eventually nature in its broader sense will guide Remy to self-discovery and growth, which leads us to the next scene, where we see Remy, and he's standing atop a little building overlooking Paris. And it's a cute picture, but I think this is the first time in the movie where he is truly separated from his family. Like, he is away from his rat family where they stick together and they find garbage to munch on. And he's going to have to truly rely on himself to survive as a rat in a human world, but also find a way to like continue his passion for cooking.
I think this actually leads us to our next quote. "Every man alone is sincere. At the entrance of a second person, hypocrisy begins." And this is again by Emerson. I think this quote really does tie to Remy, especially when he's navigating Paris alone, especially since he even makes this imaginary friend, Gusteau, for himself. It's just a representation of his inner thought, and he won't let himself fall back on his own morals now that he is alone. I think at one point Gusteau even says, good food always comes to those who love to cook. And he's talking to Remy, but it's really just Remy talking to himself, saying he can't steal, he can't be the rat that steals, because those are his values. And it's really saying that you alone are going to be your truest self and your most authentic self. And his family has been holding him back from such.
Right. Transcendentalism puts a huge emphasis on the individual and what the individual needs and wants, because as the previous quote said, trust thyself. Like, there is a path that's laid out for you, and now that he's like forced to rely on himself, it's going to lead him to fulfill his like greatest potential, which I think leads us to our next scene.
So we finally get to a scene of Remy cooking, and in this moment, later on, he'll be cooking by pulling the hair of a guy named Linguini, but him cooking is really him in his moment, in his perfect state. And he's quite literally being a nonconformist because he is a rat that is cooking. His family has told him that he should steal food, that he should stay away from humans, but to be himself, he does exactly the opposite of that, and that is his truest self.
I think this one is pretty self-explanatory, as in, like, as nonconformity goes, like, it's quite literally a rat cooking. Yeah. But Emerson writes, whoso would be a man must be nonconformist. And I know that Remy is not a man, and people might argue that comparing rats to humans or humanity itself is a little problematic, but I think he is a symbol because, one, he's fulfilling almost so many transcendentalist ideals, but especially this one, which, intellectuals like Emerson and Whitman and Thoreau all agree that putting the man first, or woman, like the individual first, and not letting societal expectations or culture influence your path is like key. It's genuinely like what can lead to greatness.
Colette, a person in the movie, even says that not just cooks, artists are we, and that wholly applies to Remy, I think, because he's not just a cook, he is an artist, and I really think that transcends even if he's a rat,
And I think this leads us to our last scene, and we see Remy's happy. He has a little chef hat going on, and he's pouring something on a plate of ratatouille, and he is living in the moment. This is his like, as you said, his most perfect or natural state. He is doing what he does best, and he does it with so much heart. And I think that leads us to our next quote.
So our last quote is, "A man is relieved and gay when he has put his heart into his work and done his best. But when he has said or done otherwise, shall give him no peace. It is the deliverance that does not deliver." So I'd like to just add some background. At this point in the movie, Remy no longer has to hide behind Linguini and pull his hair to cook. He's allowed to cook by himself. And I think this is when he has his own restaurant and he's able to cook for people, but not just people, also his family is there. His family has now accepted not only Remy, but this lifestyle of being able to eat good food around humans, which is a huge deal. And not only this, Anton Ego, a critic that had really critiqued Gusteau's work, met Remy and not only accepted it, but was no longer a critic and started eating food simply because he loved food, a lot of food. And I think in the last scene, Colette, again the human, said to Remy, you know how he likes it, because Remy inspired this newfound love for food again in Anton Ego and in his family. And I really think that represents the last segment of the quote, "If he has said or done otherwise, shall give him no peace." These people were not living their best life until they started living in the moment, until they were enlightened by Remy.
Until they started following the transcendentalist ideals. I think, like all these scenes go in chronological order, and we see that he starts to fulfill each of these ideals. And I know that it seems like a reach, like Sarah, like transcendentalism and a movie about a rat who can cook. I mean, But seriously, I think these ideals are everywhere. And Ratatouille is like a perfect example of if you do follow these, you do follow to some degree, even to some degree, these ideals, you can fulfill your greatest potential. And I think that if we just notice, if we just look close enough, it's everywhere.
Transcendentalism is
It's everywhere. It's practically in everything that we consume in media and literature, the packaging on the back of your granola bar, and movies like Ratatouille. But I think that's it. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to Mr. Grace for inspiring this podcast idea. And most importantly, thank you for joining me today, Sophia.
My pleasure, no problem.
Hi, I'm Trey, part of Rockland Media. If you liked your podcast, go ahead and like and subscribe. And if you'd like to read more articles and learn more about your campus, go ahead and visit rocklandmedia.org.